what does a credit card or a gift card or a bank card, or you get the idea, any little plastic thing that looks kind of like this, have to do with building calluses on your fingers for playing a stringed instrument? That is coming right up, so if it's what you'd like to know, you're in the right place. I wanted to start building calluses on my fingers because I knew I was going to get an ukulele or a ukulele, whatever pronunciation you prefer, and I didn't have one yet, and I wanted to start building the calluses on my fingers. So I did a little research, found several tips, most of which involved putting questionable substances on your fingertips, which I really didn't want to expose myself to for health reasons, really, and plus I just didn't think that'd be very comfortable, drying out my skin, plus just absorbing that, and then my liver and my organs having to really deal with that. No thank you. But one tip that I got was you could use a credit card to dig your fingertips into the edge, similarly to what would be happening if you're playing a stringed instrument. And that by doing this, you can increase your calluses in a shorter period of time. Now, in my case, if I would have just had the ukulele here, because everyone was just actually really coming down to recommending just play your instrument, whether it be the guitar, ukulele, violin, whatever it is, just play it a little bit each day and that'll build the calluses. If I had it here, I would have done that. That would have been my choice, but I didn't. Okay, it just arrived today and I am doing an unboxing video on that, okay? But what I've done since I found out about that tip is I've just been digging in, and then I change the angle. I change it because if you're doing the different chords, your fingers are going to be hitting into the strings at slightly different angles. So I was doing my best to mimic that as much as I could. Now, what I noticed was that the first day I was able to do this for quite a while, and it didn't really seem like it really felt like much. It didn't really hurt when I was doing this, and I was pressing in pretty firmly. What I did do is I have a music store not far from my house, and I went there just to see what it was like to press the strings into a ukulele for myself, because I'd never well, my grandmother had one, but I didn't really remember what it felt like to play with it because I was a kid at the time, and truthfully, I don't know if it was a toy. It may have been a toy, it may not, I don't know. I just didn't really remember what it felt like to play with it, and I didn't know how to play it. Just my sister and I would sometimes goof around with it, but we didn't know how to make it sound good, and mostly we thought it was boring, so we'd pick it up every now and then. I mean, really every now and then. Maybe 3 times in my whole childhood did I ever pick it up. And we would try to plunk it, but we just didn't really know what to do. So we would put it down really quick, like probably less than 5 minutes. So anyway, went down there to feel what it felt like to actually hold a ukulele and to press in the strings. And I found out that I was pressing into this card a lot harder than I was into the strings, which I actually was really happy about because this still really wasn't hurting, and I felt like I probably could do more, accomplish more in building my calluses more quickly by doing this. So by the end of that first day though, and I wasn't doing this the whole time, I just did it for a while, maybe like a half hour or so, like collectively, and by that evening I noticed that my fingertips were a little sore. By the next morning, I keep dropping this, by the next morning, they were a lot more sore. I wasn't like dying or anything, but they definitely were more sore. To the point I didn't much like the idea of digging into this. And I knew though that if I didn't at some point that day that they would just kind of recuperate, and then because I'd heard people talking about that with guitar playing, that if you let too many days go by in between, like they just heal and then you're kind of starting over all the time, so you kind of have to keep on top of it and just kind of work through the discomfort a little bit. I kind of didn't really want to do it though, but so I kept putting it off. I knew I kept telling myself you have to do it a little bit today, but it really was sore enough I kind of didn't want to. But by that evening they felt a little bit better. They were still a little sore, but a little bit better, so I started in again, and I probably did it for another 20 minutes. And then the next day I noticed that they were less sore, and they felt almost like a combination of slightly sore, but almost like there was a little like numbness, like a desensitization. It was more like that, I guess. I could still feel it, but it was a little desensitized. And I've been doing this a little bit each day ever since, and I've probably been doing it like a week now. And I've just noticed a continuation, but there is a slight desensitization and they're really holding up to it. So my ukulele, my very first one, arrived today. I'm gonna do the unboxing and I'm gonna film that and show that. And then I'll be talking about why I chose the one that I did in future videos, and as well as take you on my journey of learning how to play it, because I've never played one and I've never played a string instrument. So I've just been doing a lot of research, falling in love with it. I'm not sure why I wasn't in love with it before now, but I am now, and I just want to dive in and take it on. So I'm excited that you stopped by, and I hope to see you around here on my journey. Let me know, do you have any tips of how you've gone about building up your calluses? Now, like I said, if I had my instrument all along, I would have just been playing that each day. Probably I would have paced myself at about 20 to 30 minutes a day, just to keep my fingers building the calluses, but without over hurting them. I don't want to crack them open and make them bleed. I'm not about that. I think that would be a setback personally, but I don't know. I mean, you know, definitely don't take my opinion on that. I'm not a professional string player, and there may be a point to doing that if people actually do that on purpose. I'm not sure. But yeah, just let me know in the comments below what you've noticed has worked for you, or, you know, if you're really here just looking for a tip. This does seem to be working, but now that my instrument is here, then I don't know, I might still do this in between. I'll let you know if I do in future videos, okay? Thanks for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found this tip helpful. Let me know if it did. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it, and I hope to see you around here again.